Speaking of immigrants diluting the white vote, we got more census talk.
Yeah, so as we mentioned last week, census data is out and is being combed through to figure out how states are going to split up their districts. Yeah. And it's basically telling us that the U.S. is much more diverse than it ever has been before. Naturally, we talked about this last week, conservatives have been raising the alarm, and they've been saying things along the lines of, well, what does this mean for elections and redistricting? What are we going to do?
It means just regular democracy, bro.
Yeah, it just means demographic shift. That's it. But anyway, for the first time in decades, there are fewer methods to prevent discriminatory redistricting practices than have been in previous census years.
Wait, like fewer methods to prevent
it? Yeah.
Those things, so there are going to be more discriminatory
right.
Oh my fucking God, bro.
Discriminatory practices in gerrymandering or redistricting, whatever name you want to give it, there are fewer methods to prevent against that than ever before.
Bro, and we barely had any to begin with.
And if you don't know what redistricting is, it's just the process of states redrawing their district lines to determine where people are based on census data. So for 2022, probably every state's going to have a new map out, and you're going to be in a new district, or maybe you'll be in the same number, but it's going to look different.
Oh, we might not be in the same district anymore.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But one of the reasons that there's fewer ways to prevent this kind of cheating than ever before is because in 2013 there's a Supreme Court case, another disastrous decision made by the Supreme Court. The case was Shelby County v. Holder, and the Supreme Court basically ruled that states that have historically discriminated against minority populations when redrawing their district lines no longer need to obtain pre-clearance before changing any of their voting laws, any laws at all, or drawing their state maps.
What?
This provision was in place because of the Voting Rights Act back in the 70s.
Yeah.
It basically said states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, all just the red states, you can't, or you are going to have to get pre-clearance from the federal government before you change your laws surrounding elections, so we can make sure that you're not discriminating against black people because you've done it before.
Wow.
And in 2013, that rule was eliminated. The federal government can't do that anymore.
Don't you love federalism?
Yeah.
Don't you just fucking love it?
Federal government can't do that anymore. And wouldn't you know, after 2013, all of these red states got to work on voter suppression laws.
Crazy. Oh, I think that's exactly when we saw Louisiana start districting based on racial lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly when Louisiana and other southern states started redistricting solely to disenfranchise the black vote, explicitly to do that.
Yeah.
And then they had to change it to be based on income because they're like, oh, we can't be racist, but we can be classist.
Which functionally under capitalism is the same thing.
Literally, which the intersectionality, baby.
Yeah. But there is a little bit of hope. There's a bill called H.R. 1 that is in Congress right now. It's the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And this bill is set to be voted on by the House soon, or maybe it already has as of time of this pod releasing. And it's going to be sent to the Senate. And if it can pass the filibuster, Dems can circumnavigate the filibuster, this would restore that pre-clearance requirement, which would help when states are trying to redraw their district lines.
Yeah.
Unlike H.R. 1, this bill really only does one thing, which is that pre-clearance rule. But Joe Manchin has said that he supports it.
No way.
Joe Manchin said that he supports it. Even one Republican senator, Lisa Murkowski from...
What a fucking rhino.
I can't remember where she's from now, but she has been called a rhino. But one Republican senator supports this, making it 51, meaning you only need 9 more.
Let's go. Fuck yeah. Woohoo.
It's an uphill battle from here. But basically, that bill would help to ensure that gerrymandering isn't going to be as bad as it could, but it probably won't get passed, meaning that gerrymandering is going to be really bad. And it's just going to fuck us over in red states for the next decade. But it is demonstrable.
This is only a good thing, too. If the federal government has to clear it, it's like, okay, we have a Republican administration, and they're just going to do what they've always been. But then we have a Democratic administration. Maybe some things actually help.
Right.
Like, this is just a good thing.
And it's some people saying that, like, oh, well, states are supposed to be in charge of elections. It's
shut
still
the fuck
balanced.
up.
Well, yeah, first of all, shut the fuck up. But it's still balanced because the federal government can't impose any rules on the states.
Yes.
They can just bat down any discriminatory practices.
Which is a check and balance.
Yeah, that's a balance.
Y'all love checks and balances, huh?
Because the federal government has basically no check over elections right now.
Yeah.
That, like, the only real check they have over it is when the electoral votes get sent to the House to be checked. And can be rejected
and decertified.
Right. That is the only real check that they have. Which that rule will probably change when and if, but probably when the Republicans take the House, and they'll probably make it like, you know what?
In 2022,
we only need a 50% vote to just deny the entire election.
Yeah.
Like, because they're going to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to do that.
We only need a 50% vote to reinstate Trump. September 9th, baby. I'm waiting.
Yeah, and conservatives are technically correct to assume that the census data is bad for their electoral politics.
Oh, it is bad.
Because it's demonstrably true that minority groups vote for Democrats much more often than they vote for Republicans. But because Republicans control a majority of state legislatures, they're going to be able to redraw the most maps and have the most control over congressional districts. So take that how you will.
I can't wait to see communities like on the border in border states be just split up into a bunch of different lines.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, I can't wait for the district that covers Detroit to just reach up to the UP. I cannot wait for that. There is one good point I have on this and one bad point. The first one being that since the census has found that all of the gains in the U.S. population have been in minority groups, we've actually lost in raw number white people.
Which is also like gains in the mixed population. Right. Mind you. So exactly. It really doesn't fucking matter.
Well, numbers that have always been there, but now we're just recognized by the data.
Yes, we're adding more demographics to the census to choose from.
Right. But the one positive point here is that it's going to be harder for Republicans to legally draw straight state district maps that are dominated by white people in general because all of the growth has been in minority populations.
That's facts.
Like it's going to be much harder to justify Texas as it looks like right now with their district map.
Austin's district?
When all of the growth in Texas has been mostly Hispanic people and other people of color.
I think it's like what Hispanics are supposed to overtake like whites within the U.S. by like 2050 or some shit, which is like, okay. Like I don't fucking care.
It's going to be much harder in drawing the map to dilute the vote as they have historically.
Yes.
They're still going to try.
Yeah, maybe Austin will be split into 7 districts instead of 6 like it is now.
Yeah, well, they did gain 3 seats in Texas, so they could probably do that.
True.
So that kind of dynamic gives a little bit of a leg up for Democrats if they're suing in court for discriminatory maps. But again, the Supreme Court, or really just courts in general, don't do much with district maps. They just say, like, figure it out. Like, this is a political procedure. Just do it on your own, which is like, how are you supposed to figure it out in a broken system? Whatever.
Political procedure. Yes, the Supreme Court is a political body, like it or not.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court is literally a political body. Why is it that conservative presidents only appoint conservative judges, and why is it that Democrats only appoint, like, centrist judges?
Yes, centrist. Anyway, the point that I was going to say that is kind of bad, not necessarily bad inherently, but bad because of how we're going to treat it, is that general trends suggest that a diversifying country is good for Democrats in elections. This is true in general, but Democrats are probably, as they always have, going to treat every minority group as a monolith.
100%. Oh my God, yes. No, it's how they lost the Cuban, well, they always lost the Cuban vote in Florida. That was never a thing. But also the Vietnamese vote. Vietnamese people are reliably conservative, which is so crazy also. But I understand these people who have fled communist, quote unquote, regimes in the past.
Yeah. And a lot of the electoral talking points that I've heard, at least throughout elections in the past, is that Democrats need to focus on certain subsets of the population and drive their votes. Specifically, I've heard a lot of talk around like Hispanic communities are not all the same. You need to treat them as all differently depending on what state and locality you're in, which is true, but we need to treat every marginalized group that way.
100%.
Because assuming that black voters from Michigan are going to vote the same as black voters from Texas or Florida is a mistake.
Never. And it's just the solution. Just prop up local groups more.
Yeah.
Take some of that money out of your stupid fucking pockets and your bank account, your portfolio, and invest it instead into local communities, local organizers. That's how you actually address these changes, is local organizers address their own communities that they're involved in.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
And like, we need to get out of this mindset of just assuming because someone is of some color, they're going to vote for the Democratic Party.
Yes.
They probably won't.
Not at all.
Like, we need to assume that every single voter is persuadable. Every single voter is 50-50. Treat them as if they may not vote at all, or they may vote for the Republican Party. And we have to move forward on that basis, because even in some states that the white population is now not a majority anymore, even in some states where they're like 49-48% of the population, that state is likely ruled by Republicans. And we need to treat it as if we have to persuade every single voter, or we are going to get washed again. This is the same mistake that Biden almost made. This is the same mistake that Hillary made back in 2016.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
She just assumed that people were going to come out and vote for her. In the future, we cannot just assume or take for granted any community of color and just assume that they are going to vote for Democrats.
In general do nothing to mobilize their base.
No, not at all.
Absolutely nothing.
Not at all.
They're so fucking stupid.
We need to treat every voter as persuadable and pursue every vote as if it is going to be the one that decides the election.
And then, newsflash, that's how you reach more voters.
Yeah.
That, and also, coming through with your promises, coming through with $15 minimum wage, coming through with things that are actually going to help disenfranchise people.
Yeah.
Like I saw, back to TikTok, I've been spending too much time on that app, right? I saw this one TikTok by this girl, and she's like, I don't follow politics unless it's election season because I work a shitty 9 to 5 and my life just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's the state of a third of Americans that don't vote. They don't care. Their life fucking sucks, and politicians do nothing to make it better.
And it's too hard to vote for some people.
Exactly. Oh my God, literally. And Democrats just offer lip.
Yeah.
They just offer lip and then get some middle class voters and like us, like even though I hate it.
Yeah, we need to, and I know it's difficult when I'm saying like treat every voter as persuadable. I know it's hard for organizers to do that.
Yeah.
But unless we do that, we're just going to get washed.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's also hard for organizers to do it because organizers organize on too big of levels.
Yeah.
They don't organize on the local level, and the Democratic Party doesn't support that.
No.
It's so much easier for Republican people to organize because it's a hegemony. Like it's all white
they
people,
actually
bro.
are a monolith.
Yeah,
literally. Like the MAGA base, they literally all do think the same. But if we're going to try to reach out to people that are either in our base or we assume are part of our base or part of our group of voters that we can persuade, we cannot just take for granted that they are going to vote for us because they might not go vote at all.
No, for sure. And just side note about the MAGA base, bro. I was watching that rally, right? Just it's all coming back to the rally. It's just the great unifier,
the great equalizer.
Exactly. And this dude Trump was like talking, and then he looks out into the crowd and he sees this one dude, and he's like, "I know you. How many rallies you been to?" And this guy says he's been to 30, right? And he's like, "Oh, that's crazy. We should have these women up front from North Carolina. How many rallies have you guys been to?" They said 96. 96 fucking Trump rallies.
And then he said, "I didn't even know I did 96."
Yeah. Like, what a slap in the face. Like, oh shit, really? That's crazy. But like, the MAGA stands are worse than K-pop stands. I swear, bro.
They're insane.
Exactly. It takes me back to the town hall he did with Savannah Guthrie instead of the second presidential debate.
Yeah.
Where one of the voters came up and asked him, and she goes, "You have a really nice smile."
She said, "You're so handsome.
You are so handsome. You just have a really nice smile, President Trump." And she fucking creamed herself in that moment, bro. Oh my God.
And he was just smiling at her.
Yeah, I cringed so hard.
It was bad.
I love it though. I absolutely love it. And it's way funnier when Republicans do it than when Democrats do it. It's just cringy when Democrats do shit.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to see Democrats actually give an effort in all the marginalized communities they routinely go for votes.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, and we just assume that people from those communities are going to vote for us just because people of their color typically do, we're going to be in big trouble come 2022 and even 2024. I mean, Biden almost made this mistake. Had he not got a few select 40,000 votes throughout the country, we would have lost that election. And we would still have Trump in office.
If Trump was just like a marginally more center candidate, I can't imagine Biden would win.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason he won is because Trump's rhetoric was just so disgusting and gross to a lot of these communities.
And
because Democrats did absolutely nothing to reach out to them.
So my biggest worry is that with this census information coming out, Democratic strategists are going to see like, oh, this is good for us, and then just be like, all right, job done. Like, we can just keep doing what we've always been doing, when that's just not the case. Yeah. Like, yes, this looks good for us. Let's please capitalize on it, but not in the sense of capitalism. Capitalism.
Please do not.
But let's use this to our advantage, per se.
Yeah. And I guess just to sum it up, if you're going to donate to political parties, to the Democratic Party, don't. Donate to local organizers instead. Yeah. Donate to local, like, organizations that are involved in your community that are going to reach out to these marginalized communities. If you're in or around a marginalized community, that is. But, like, just don't.
Because your $1 or $5 or however much you give is going to go much farther in a local community.
Oh, my God,
or in a local organizing group than it ever will on, like, for like the National Democratic Party.
Yeah, it ain't gonna do shit. That's a drop in the bucket.
It's gonna go towards an ad where it's like Joe Biden's family is dead. Like, it's gonna go towards an ad where he's just like crying and like, please let me be president again. But instead, if you give to a local organizing group, they can like pay their volunteers for the day or get them food for the day, and that gets more people out in the streets organizing. Or
like it's just gonna go to like covering up another sexual assault scandal, but you give it to an organizer, and they are gonna appreciate that money.
Yeah,
they are gonna do everything they can. They will make that dollar go far.